Hey everybody, Brian Tro coming to you from Mossy Creek Fly Fishing with your fly fishing forecast. The date today is Tuesday the 31st of May. So we have a lot to get through today. It's kind of peak season, especially for trout. And so there's just a whole lot to talk about. The good news is the brook trout fishing is just off the charts good. Virginia's got thousands of miles of wild trout water. And whether you're going to go up in the national park in Shenandoah or to the George Washington or Jefferson National Forest, like all these creeks right now have one thing in common. They've got good water flow, they've got good oxygen, they've got good cover, they got great water temps, and then there's just tons of bugs. So they're all fishing really, really well. When it comes to the bugs, it's really hard to kind of go wrong. If you want to kind of zero in on what's really coming off, the drakes are hatching, green drakes, slate drakes, yellow drakes. We've seen them all. These bugs are amazing. There's been big spinner falls right before dark, so if you can stay out late, you really get paid. Right before like the last 30 minutes of daylight, they'll all hit the water, and it's pretty something to see if you haven't seen it. Watching a 4-inch brook trout try and eat a 4-inch long green drake is pretty funny. But there's lots of other bugs too. So we've got Yellowstone flies that are all over the place. That's a great fly to fish. You can see it really well, and that's going to actually be around for another month at least. Whereas the drakes, we probably have a couple more weeks, and they'll peter out a little bit. We've got blue-wing olives, we've got caddis, we've got Hendricksons. Everything is showing up. All right, so find your favorite fly, your favorite dry fly. Grab lots of floatant and some frog's fanny and get out there and have a ball. It's awesome. We got a lot of rain this past Friday, and in addition to that, just had good consistent rain throughout the spring, and so that's all kind of combined to just create perfect water levels. There's a lot of tiny little brook trout streams out there that do poorly in drought, and right now they're fishing really well. The fish spread out a lot during these conditions too, so your favorite pool that you always fish, well, when you're walking to that pool, you need to look down, and I always tell people if it's big enough for your foot to fit in it and there's good water flowing through it, a brook trout will hold in it. So take some time to fish what most people call transition water, like the water between pools. There's 1,000 feeding stations sometimes between a pool and another pool. And once the water comes up and stays up, the last thing those fish want to do is sit on top of each other. And so they will spread out into all these little nooks and crannies. And sometimes the biggest brook trout you'll catch for the whole season is in a piece of water that's only this wide and this long and this deep, but there's a lot of the creek, if you pay attention, is actually funneling through it, and so they've got this whole buffet line just to themselves, whereas the fish in the pools, if there's not a good prime lie, it's just a big open pool, they got to cruise and they got to compete with the other trout that are there. So try mixing it up a little bit, high sticking. And when I say fish the water in between, like that could mean something as simple as just touching it with your dry fly like once, or I tell people sometimes like that spot's good for 3 casts, just 3 little runs through there, nothing's it, keep on walking. Okay, Tenkara rods are killer for that, for just being able to kind of touch the water a little bit as you walk and work. So mix up your strategy a little bit, and just try and get out there while it's peak season. Okay, it won't last. I mean, there's more rain. I think more rain coming on Thursday, which will help, and hopefully we kind of keep on getting showers along the way. People always say, hey, when's brook trout season kind of wrap up? There's no season. Brook trout want to eat all year. The conditions just kind of change on them, and you can't always put a date on it. Typically in Virginia in the summer, we get hot and droughty, and once that happens, the conditions for brook trout just get tough. Okay, then you get a big rainstorm, like a big thunderstorm, and they all start eating like crazy again. But we ought to be able to ride this wave for a couple more weeks. Even if we get dry, these fish are going to be up and eating. Okay, so get out and enjoy the brook trout while you can. Also, a quick reminder, the delayed harvest streams in Virginia, which we have quite a few of, they're quite fun. We fish them like crazy through the fall, the winter, and spring. They're going to be opening up for harvest this week. So you have another day or two if you want to get up there and fish and enjoy them. But a lot of the folks that want to keep fish will be heading in there to catch them and keep them. And after a couple weeks of that, coupled with warmer weather, you'll want to stay away from delayed harvest streams, most of them anyway, until the fall when they get going again. We'll be heading in there to catch them and keep them. And after a couple weeks of that, coupled with warmer weather, you'll want to stay away from delayed harvest streams, most of them anyway, until the fall when they get going again. We'll be heading in there to catch them and keep them. And after a couple weeks of that, coupled with warmer weather, you'll want to stay away from delayed harvest streams, most of them anyway, until the fall when they get going again. Spring creeks are fishing well too. Some of the same bugs, like the drakes, are hatching throughout the day, and we're having big spinner falls at night. Depending on how good that is, it can make the morning fishing a little tough, right? If they sit there and eat these huge drakes all day long, maybe they're not going to be as keyed in on the trichos. So the trichos spinner falls are happening around 10:30, and of course it's a very small bug. So, but don't write the trichos off. They're very important, and they start hatching in Virginia in April, and we're going to have them like all the way through to Halloween. And so as we lose our mayflies, as times get tough, that consistent meal of tiny little trichos coming at the same time every single morning are going to become really, really important. It's going to be your friend. So you don't have to fish a size 22 with 7X to enjoy the tricho spinner falls, okay? You're just using those bugs to get the fish up and get them on a rhythm. They get on a nice rhythm, just like when we eat popcorn. You know, you throw one in, you take a bite, you chew it up, you eat another one. That's how they eat those trichos. And so it can take a really, really big fish and put them way up in the water column, and then you can put on your favorite giant, beetle, something you can see, and fish them. Speaking of beetles, the hoppers and the beetles are going to be showing up pretty soon. Some people say, oh, I already see them, they're in my yard, this and that. Well, we need to eat them down by the creek, okay? Grasshoppers live in the grass, all right? What puts them over by the water is usually hot and dry conditions, okay? They need water just like everything else on planet Earth. And so as we start to get droughtier in June, what ends up happening is those grasshoppers that live all out on those big fields, they'll make their way closer and closer to the water's edge. Like where I live on Mossy Creek, the creek is very cold, and the low-lying areas are always just have dew billowing out of the creek every day, okay? And that dew covers all the grass, and it really helps keep moisture for a lot of the wildlife and for the insects. So you're going to see, as we get drier, you're going to see more and more of those terrestrials right there at the creek's edge. And then, of course, a lot of our terrestrials have yet to hatch. The Japanese beetles, they usually show up around the 10th of July. So for those of you tires out there, start pumping out some crow beetles. You'll need them in about a month and a half. All right, switching over to the big rivers, the warm water fisheries. The James is big. Probably not suitable for fishing for a couple more days. The Shenandoah got really huge. It went up to over 4,000 CFS over the weekend, and has been dropping ever since. So we've had a lot of trips canceled, but just starting to get back on it in the next day or two. When you get back on, and you're kind of, if you're floating the river, you're always looking for those calm spots like eddies, behind islands, behind ledges, up in creeks. When the river gets really big for days on end, the fish will push into sheltering lies, and it takes them a while before they kind of venture back out from those spots. So heavy flies, near enough sculpins, clawdads, things with a lot of lead where you can get down really deep. When the river gets up, you get what we call overwash. The top of the water column is moving much faster than down towards the bottom. Spin fishermen have no problem cutting through that stuff. They use braid and heavy lures. As a fly fisherman, it's a little bit more of a chore, right? You got to use a lot of lead, and you have to mend and do all this work to try and cut that fly line down through the overwash. So be mindful of getting it down deep, fishing it as slow as you can, and focusing in on all those slower spots in the river where the fish are probably stacked up, okay? And then hopefully it calms down and lowers a little bit. For those of you looking forward a few weeks on our smallmouth streams, middle of June is when it usually gets really, really good. The water temps go up, and smallmouth's metabolism goes up with warm temperatures, not down. And we also, when the river gets cut in half and it's only half as much water, you're in front of more fish. Plus, we'll get that stargrass growing. That stuff is critical. I'll talk about that more over the next few weeks. And then we get more food. Damselflies, dragonflies, and dog-day cicadas, they'll all start hatching in the middle of June. Which is when the fly fishermen start to do better than the spin fishermen. All right, more on that coming up. If you need more up-to-the-minute stuff on water levels, where to go brook trout fishing, you need a new stream to hit up, right? A new blue line to hit. Give us a call, email us, or come in the shop. We're super stocked up. I know a lot of shops are having a hard time keeping inventory and everything else, and we've had our struggles, but we have a ton of stuff. So if you need it, if you need fly tying, waders, boots, rods, lines, anything, sunglasses, all right, we've got it. We hope to see you all soon, and I will catch you next week. Thanks.